training for hypertrophy is everywhere on YouTube.
Muscle growth is a two-step process.
So you're wondering how to get big biceps.
In this video, I'm going to explain how to train for pure muscle growth.
I gathered a list of the top 3 exercises for every single muscle.
But when it comes to training for strength, things immediately get more tricky. Train too much and you'll burn out or hit a plateau, but train too little and you might be leaving gains on the table. I know this for a fact myself because I was stuck with a 2-plate bench press for months and months. No matter how hard I pushed, I couldn't break through this plateau. That was until I discovered a training method that completely changed the game for my strength. Once I learned about this strategy and applied it, my strength just skyrocketed. Combined with an improved technique, I was able to add 60 kilos, 130 pounds to my bench press, peaking at a 2.7 times body weight bench and setting a national record at the same time. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about the daily undulating periodization method. I'll first explain this method and why it works so well, and then in the second part of this video, I'm going to give you the advice that you need in order to properly apply this training method. And make sure to stay up until the end of this video because I'll share a sample program using this method that you can start following today and finally blow up your strength on any lift that you want. So without further ado, let's talk about the daily undulating periodization, aka the DUP. Linear progression is probably the training method that comes to mind for strength gains. You start your training cycle, let's say at around 60 or 70% of your 1RM, and slowly over the course of multiple weeks, you slightly increase the percentages up until the point where you can try to beat your previous PR. In reality, this follows a key principle for strength, which is called progressive overload. The idea is that you want to add weight to the bar every week, but in reality, it's not the most optimal way to use this progressive overload. The most important adaptations we're looking after are muscle hypertrophy, central nervous system adaptations, and also technical efficiency, just to name a few. And the problem with linear periodization is that sometimes you'll get stuck with a percentage that doesn't work all of those aspects the best way possible. And that's exactly where you need to implement the daily undulating periodization, which I'll refer to in this video as DUP. The idea with DUP is that we're going to train with different modalities throughout the same week. You're going to attribute a target or quality that you want to train on your weekly basis. So for example, on day 1, you want to improve your hypertrophy, so hypertrophy will be the goal and you'll do a different work based on that goal. Let's say on day 2, strength is your main focus, so obviously you're not going to train with the exact same modalities as you would for your first day. Finally, you can add a tertiary day to your weekly spread, which is, for example, a day dedicated to power or explosiveness or technique work. So to put it up simply, the main difference between linear periodization and DUP is that with linear periodization, let's say on week 1, you're only training with 60% of your 1RM, and then maybe week 2, 65, 70%, and so on and so forth. With DUP though, maybe on one training day, you're going to train with 60%, but throughout the same week, maybe let's say on your second training session, you're going to handle, let's say 80-85% of your 1RM. So instead of having to wait multiple weeks in order to get the proper adaptations, with the DUP, you're actually going to train all of those qualities at the same time on a weekly basis. For example, with the linear progression model, you might have to wait till week 4 or maybe week 5 of your training block in order to start touching weights around, let's say 80 or 85% of your 1RM. And we absolutely need those heavier sets if we want to build serious strength. But at the same time, if you're only doing sets of 3 with very high percentages of your 1RM, then the overall weekly volume that you're going to train with will be too low, not allowing you to max out on one of the key elements to strength, which is hypertrophy. And that's very important because if you look closely, all of the top powerlifters are as jacked as they can be for their weight class. Whether it's 59 kilos, 66 kilos, 74, whatever, all of the top powerlifters are really jacked for their weight. And the reason is pretty straightforward. Every serious powerlifter knows that volume is also important if you want to build your muscle mass and also increase your potential for strength. So here are the three main benefits of the DUP method. Number one, you're going to get a balanced development. Not only will you hit strength-specific training, but also you'll hit volume days, which, like I said, are really important, and you're going to hit those targets with varied workloads. The second main aspect of the DUP is it allows you to train with a higher frequency. I talked about it in a previous video that you'll find here, but basically higher frequency means more practice on the main lifts, which in our case in powerlifting are the squat, the bench press and the deadlift, which allows for skill and neural adaptations. Finally, the third main benefit of the DUP, you get an improved recovery and also volume. Like I said, your week will be properly balanced between your strength training sessions, your volume training sessions, your technique or explosive training sessions, and all of that will be done through different intensities, which will improve your recovery and also, like I said, develop overall your qualities as an athlete. So now that we saw the principle and the main benefits of DUP, let's see together how you can start implementing that into your own training. The first and probably the most important thing in order to properly use DUP is to understand how to determine the target and the training modality of each training day of your week. Like I said, the main qualities we're looking after are hypertrophy, strength, explosiveness, power, however you want to name it, and also technique. And in order to accomplish that, we're using what we call the primary days, secondary days, and tertiary days. Tertiary, very, very hard word to say in English. It's probably the 10th time I'm doing this take, but yeah, tertiary day. So for this example, let's take the bench press. So now we need to link up one of those days with a goal. So our primary day for powerlifting will obviously be strength training because it's one of the most important quality that we need to develop in order to build our strength. The secondary day will usually be our more hypertrophy/volume oriented day. And finally, on the tertiary day, that's where you're going to do either your power or explosive work, or you can do your more technical practice. So now let's talk about the sample program that is based off of one of my programs that I followed in order to improve my strength on the bench. By the way, quick pause right now, if some of you guys are interested in following one of my powerlifting programs, they're available on my training app. With just one monthly subscription, you can access more than 15 powerlifting programs that all use this method that I'm talking to you about right now. There's absolutely zero engagement. You can follow the program for however long you want. If you want to follow one program, two programs for 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, you can cancel your subscription at any time. So if you want to start training following the powerlifting programs I designed and I followed over the years in order to build my strength and my physique, make sure to go to thepanache.app. The link will be in the description. And now back to the video. So this sample program will be spread out with 3 training days every week. Day 1 of training will be our secondary day, which will be focused, like I said, on hypertrophy and volume. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to build muscle in order to be as strong as you possibly can. More muscle mass equals more potential for strength, so that's how important this day actually is. But we do want to stay a bit more specific because obviously the most known rep range for hypertrophy is between 8 and 12 reps. But I don't think that it's actually suitable for powerlifting. Because with powerlifting, we're doing compound lifts, we're actually lifting heavy weights, and the more technical the lift is, the harder it is to do a lot of reps. So it wouldn't really make sense to build our volume and our hypertrophy with, let's say, sets of 12 on squats if your goal is powerlifting. So that's the reason as to why, in my opinion, the best rep range for volume, hypertrophy, while still remaining specific to powerlifting, is between 5 and 7 reps. In terms of intensity, between 70 and 80% of your 1RM will be a very sweet spot for that first day of training. If you are a beginner, you should start more around the 70%. If you're an advanced lifter, you can definitely go higher towards the 80%. In my case, I found out that really the sweet spot for me is between 75 and 78% of my 1RM for this more hypertrophy volume training day. Depending on how much volume you actually need to grow, you can start by doing 3 sets and slowly building your work capacity over time. At the end of my training cycle, usually I'm doing 5 sets on this training day, so you can definitely add 1 set per week or 1 set every other week. But I definitely wouldn't recommend you go above 5 sets for that training day. At the end of that more specific powerlifting volume work, you can definitely add a couple of accessories if you really want to improve as much as possible your muscle mass. In my opinion, the best 2 accessories for bench that are not bench press variations are a chest machine or a dumbbell bench press. On those, you definitely want to go higher with the reps and not lift as heavy as the main barbell bench press that we already performed in the workout. Now we're on to day 2, which will be our tertiary training day. Like I said it earlier, depending on how advanced you are or the goal you're pursuing, you can either do a power/explosive training day, or you can do a more technical practice day. In my experience coaching a lot of athletes in order to improve their strength and their technique on the bench press, I found out that the more technique focused day works a bit more than the explosive day, especially for bench. And for that, one of the best bench press variations is, in my opinion, the Larsen press. I already made a whole video on the Larsen that will be here, but for those that are interested in the main guidelines, the goal of the Larsen is to perform your bench press without the use of the legs. This makes keeping your chest high and engaged throughout the rep much harder, and that's why it's usually a great exercise to improve your ability to open up and keep your chest opened throughout your bench press. That's a very challenging exercise, and that's why, in my opinion, it's best to practice it with lighter loads. That's actually a perfect fit for this training day because, like I said, the goal of the tertiary day is to work on your technique and also prime yourself for the last training day of the week, which is the primary day. In terms of intensity, between 55 and 65% of your regular bench press 1RM will be perfect. In terms of how many sets you should do, this will vary depending on your goals and your abilities to recover, but personally, most of the time, I'm doing 4 sets on that technical day. Like I said, you can do a bit more sets because the load is actually lighter, and sometimes I'm doing my Larsen with 120 kilos, 130 kilos, which is, I think, close to 270 pounds, which isn't a whole lot compared to my bench press 1RM, and that's how you can accumulate, again, a bit more volume while still working on your technique on this tertiary training day. Finally, we're on day 3 of this sample program, which is our strength-specific training day. It is our primary bench session. That's where we're going to do most of the heavy stuff. That's where we're going to do most of the stuff that will actually allow us to have as much central nervous adaptations and also technique adaptations as possible. Because I've said it in multiple videos now, but improving your technique with 50, 60, 70% of your 1RM is something, but when you're trying out your 1RM on bench, you want your technique to be used to handling those really heavy sets. If you're able to have proper leg drive, a proper bar path with, let's say, 70% of your 1RM, but whenever you go to 90%, 95%, everything goes off board, you won't be able to express good technique, which will in return allow you to really express your absolute best strength. One of the reasons as to why I'm able to grind out reps on the bench press is because my technique is really repeatable. I'm pretty much always in the same position, always touching around the same level on my chest, with always the same leg drive, always the same bar path, and so on and so forth. So really, improving your technique on lifting heavy weights is definitely crucial. So on this day, I actually have a typical strength pattern that I really like to use, and that's actually the strength pattern of one of my latest programs on the training app. Here, you want to practice first a heavy single, so 1 rep, with approximately 88 up to 92% of your 1RM. This is very specific. This will train your CNS, and also you'll be able to catch up on maybe some technical breakdowns that you may have with higher loads. Once that you get this very specific practice, you then want to do your back-off sets. For the back-off sets, you want to do a 3x3, so 3 sets of 3 repetitions with between 82 and 86% of your 1RM. By doing so, we're really able to train different qualities, different aspects with very, very heavy weights, but then also at the same time, allowing ourselves to do multiple reps, multiple sets with still challenging weights, but doing a set of 3 with 82% of your 1RM when in the same training session, let's say you did 1 rep with 92% of your 1RM, is much easier. But at the same time, you're still handling some challenging weights that will allow you to build your strength. In conclusion, here is the full sample DUP program that you can use on any lift. And remember, the gold standard of pretty much any powerlifting or strength program is to keep some sort of progressive overload. So ideally, what you want to do, you want to start, let's say on week 1 with certain percentages, leaving some room in the tank, and slowly over the course of your training block, you want to increase the percentages and every time going closer to your actual limits. Ideally, a good strength cycle lasts from 4 up to maybe 6 weeks, so you can spread out the jumps evenly on a week-to-week basis or maybe on a 2 weeks basis, so you can increase from week 1 to week 2, then week 2 to week 3, or you can repeat the same weight week 1, week 2, then increase week 3, week 4, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much it. That's essentially what is DUP all about. Like I said, training different qualities on different training modalities on different days of your weekly pattern. And like I said, I cannot emphasize enough how important and how useful this training method has been for my strength, but also for the athletes that I coached over the years. And that was it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned a couple of things. As always, if that's the case, one of the best ways to let me know is to leave a comment, subscribe to the channel in order to not miss out on the next video. And you know, the comments can be something like, hey Pana, I followed this training method that you talk about and I increased my bench press by 20 pounds. Whenever I'm reading something like that, you know, this fills my heart with joy. Or you can say, hey Pana, your take on animes are really, really good and your Blackbeard laugh is absolutely crazy, insane, excellent. Do we say excellent in English? Yeah, I think we say so. So, catch you guys in the next one. I've completely mastered it now. I'll try the white beard laugh next time. It's much harder, but I'll do my best. See you guys.